Hello and welcome to Demian Allan's astrology channel, and this is going to be a description of the astrological planets and aspects for May 2022. If you do like the channel, then please subscribe, and if you like the video, then press the like button. Right, yeah, so May 2022, I'm recording this on the 27th of April. Interesting month ahead for us all. So I'm going to be looking at the main aspects, the planets, where they are, what to look out for, the key dates for you all to notch in your diaries, and what we can expect from May 2022. Okay, so we just come off the back of an eclipse on the 30th of April, which of course is in Taurus at 10 degrees. So as we go into the 1st of May, we've got the Sun in Taurus, we've got Mercury in Gemini, Venus is in Pisces, Mars is in Pisces, Jupiter is in Pisces, Neptune is in Pisces, Uranus is in Taurus, we've got retrograde Pluto in Capricorn, and Chiron is moving forward in Aries. And the North Node is at 22 degrees in Taurus. So we ended in April with a lot of Piscean energy, and we go into May with a lot of Pisces energy. You know, the Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Neptune all in Pisces, and Pisces is the end of the zodiac, and I've said this before, it's a bit smoke and mirrors, it's a bit kind of not sure where everything's going, what's the truth, what's not, and that is going to be overemphasized. So you've really got to kind of use your intuition and not plug into the fear or that energy that can be very nebulous in terms of the collective. If you're a Pisces, then there's a lot going on, but Pisces might actually feel quite strong at the moment in a lot of ways, because they might be feeling that there's so many planets in their own sign that they've got the strength of that planet, therefore they can make quite strong decisions. And this has been a theme, particularly in the second half of April going into May. So I think Pisces are really working quite well. We've also got that conjunction between Jupiter and Neptune, although you know, Jupiter is moving away, separating from Neptune, but that's a very idealistic combination as well. The big news really is kind of that's going to happen on the 11th of May, is that Jupiter, for the first time in 12 years, is going to make an entrance into the astrological sign of Aries. It's going to be there for a couple of months, then it will go back into Pisces before re-entering for the beginning of next year. And this is kind of significant because, one, Jupiter is not going to be making, from my astrological perspective anyway, not be making a conjunction with Neptune. So suddenly Jupiter's like freed up from that nebulous energy of Neptune. He goes into Aries, and you know, Aries naturally is incredibly pioneering, courageous, individualistic as an energy. And so for Jupiter to go in there, the great benefactor of the sky, the optimism, the expansiveness, I think it's kind of an interesting combination. And even though we get it for a couple of months, we just get a kind of a sense, this is really kind of a template for what's coming in 2023. That energy of Jupiter and Aries, and that ability to look further ahead, and to be quite daring on a collective energy, and quite individualistic here. So Pisces in the natural zodiac is at the end of a cycle, and Aries is at the beginning. So it's just quite a powerful kind of aspect. So the last time this would have happened is around about 2010 actually here. So if you're born, you know, around about March 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd of March, if your birthday's around that time, then you get a jolt of Jupiter energy, which is going to come right in and be quite inspiring actually for you. So that's the big astrological kind of news that's coming in. Obviously, Aries is a cardinal sign. So in cardinal signs, things move very, very quickly. We've also, just before that, on the 10th, we've got a Mercury retrograde. This is in Gemini. Mercury is in its own sign of rulership. However, Mercury, Gemini rules the third house, the natural zodiac. So again, looking at maybe issues to do with transport at a local level, mobiles, laptops, people talk about Mercury retrograde a lot. It tends to be, if you've got a heavy dose of Gemini planets, you might feel it a lot more. If you're in a Mercury perfected year, Mercury is the ruler of your year, then you're going to feel this. I think from a collective level, it'll feel a little bit like things are on repeat. The news is on repeat, so things that have been over the past sort of come back in, and it always relates to the previous Mercury retrograde, which was in the middle of January, and it was in Aquarius and then went back into Capricorn. So themes from January coming back in to the collective consciousness in that second half of May. It also, what happens is that the planet Mercury goes backwards, and then on the 23rd it will go into Taurus as well. So again, that emphasis of changing, shifting signs as well, and shifting priorities. So again, the financial aspect, the end of May, financial issues really coming out, whereas before that, from the 10th to about 22nd of May, it's all going to be a lot about how one communicates, or we communicate, or like, as I say, travel and stuff like that, and the media particularly coming in. So it's an interesting Mercury retrograde here. I would say, like, in Mercury retrogrades, the best thing to do is try and step back and not make major decisions, but to step back, reflect. That's the ideal solution to a Mercury retrograde, is just step back and take time out and not push things forward. Sometimes you can do this, sometimes you can't, sometimes you have to under a Mercury retrograde, and that means you just have to kind of, be quite creative in your thinking of how to get where you want to get to. Venus, which has been in Pisces, that changes signs on the 3rd, goes into Aries. So Venus is a little bit uncomfortable in Aries, because Aries is a bit of a go-getter and Venus is a peacemaker, and the two kind of challenge each other a little bit. They don't really know how to work. So again, if you're in a Venus perfected year, this could be a little bit of a tricky time period for you. Generally, I think for Aries, it's going to be interesting because you've got the Jupiter going in on the 11th, you've got Venus going in. So, Aries individuals, if you've got a lot of Aryan planets in your chart, this is a busy month for you. And that's going to be accentuated by the planet Mars, which is going to, around about the 24th of May, go into Aries, which is in its rulership. So there's a whole bunch of Aryan energies that's going in, and this is interesting because the sun in Aries is at the end of March and in April, but I don't think that was a very Aryan time which you just come out of. The Aries energy really kind of comes in, even though the sun is for a majority of May in Taurus. The Aries energy, of the pioneering energy, really comes in the month of May. So that's when we start to kind of really feel it, that sense of, right, we could achieve, and we're putting new plans into process, because you've got Venus, you've got Jupiter, and you've got Mars. So at the beginning, we're in this sort of Piscean energy, and then suddenly we switch into this Aries energy, which is very, very strong. Saturn still moving forward. It does go retrograde in June, but it's still moving forward direct in Aquarius. It's right at the end of Aquarius, 24, 25, 26 degrees. So if you're born in, let's say, May, between May the sort of 12th and the 17th, if you're born between July the 12th and the 17th, or November the 12th to 17th, or February the 12th to the 17th of February, then you're going to kind of feel is Saturn energy. Saturn's really kind of at your side, bringing in a sense of limitations, bringing in a sense of structure. Probably things are quite slow or seemingly quite laborious at the moment. So you just got to take your time, look at the long game. That's really important, not the short term, but the long game. And it means that you're limited from being quite expansive. However, I've just touched upon the fixed signs of the zodiac, and fixed signs generally are long-term planners anyway. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue for you. Uranus is moving direct in Taurus. It's around about 14, 15, 16 degrees. If you're born on the 4th of May up to around about the 7th of May, you're feeling Uranus's energy a lot. If you're born on the sort of 6th of November, 7th November, 8th of November, again, you're feeling this energy quite a lot, this sort of slight turbulence. Things are changing, things are moving quite quickly, nothing's standing still. 1 week you go, right, I'm doing this, next week it all kind of changes. So there's a lot going on here, a little bit disruptive, a bit like a roller coaster, but listen, continue down that route, because the one thing with Uranus you can rely on is change, and you just got to go with it. And I know, particularly for Taurians and indeed Scorpios, sometimes that can be a little bit on the challenging side. We got Pluto retrograde in Capricorn at that kind of 28, 27 degree mark right at the end. So it's an interesting thing about the whole Pluto in Capricorn, because we are coming to the end of the cycle. And sometimes, particularly when it hits 29 degrees, which will be later in the year, critical degree, it can really kind of feel like everything that's been going on since 2008, when Pluto went into Capricorn, is now fully manifested. And this is the result of it. So when Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008, literally about 2 weeks later, we had the financial crash, the Lehman Brothers and all that kind of stuff that's really kind of set this whole thing about finances and global markets and politics and things coming up to the surface. So now it's coming to the end of the cycle. It feel like everything's kind of falling apart a little bit, which it is in a sense, and new things are emerging. And so you get these little pockets of things, that the seeds of change that are coming out, that will become a lot bigger and more expansive as the years go in, particularly when Pluto goes into Aquarius. So it might feel like it's even more fear and even more issues around here, and of course that can be very difficult to ignore or to sidestep, but if you can, that's the antidote to this. We've also got Neptune coming to the end of the cycle in Pisces. As I said, it's been overblown by Jupiter's conjunction with it in April, and it just continues at 24, 25 degrees in Pisces, again, just to emphasize that kind of nebulous energy of what the media says and how things are depicted, and not necessarily the truth, or they've got ulterior motives. So you just got to be a little bit wary of that. But again, that's been going on since 2011. It's nothing new. It's just that we're coming, because Neptune and Pisces come to the end of the cycle again, or near the end. We've got still a couple more years. Again, it feels like it's fully manifested, that this is the full manifestation of it. Astrology deals with cycles, and so, you know, what I love about astrology is that the planets move on, so the cycles end and then the new cycle begins. So it's certainly not the case that this is the permanent state we're in. It's not, but everything is kind of accentuated by these outer planets certainly coming to the end of the cycles. And Chiron, the asteroid Chiron, yeah, in Aries. So, you know, it's kind of 14-15 degrees. Basically, that's for a lot of the 50-year-olds out there, probably having the Chiron return right now. You know, Chiron returns usually are a stage of knowing one's wounds and being able to understand them and consciously work with them, and therefore able to help other people from a collective level. The wound comes in from the ability to be impulsive and make decisions and believe in oneself as a collective. So last time we had Chiron Aries was really kind of 1972, 1973, that kind of time, the early 70s. So again, it's looking at that time of year, particularly the financial and what we did in response to that. I think May is going to be a bit of a month, not as maybe dramatic as April. And May predominantly is the sun is in Taurus, so it's fixed, so not much changes in terms of the political. The sun does go on the 21st of May into Gemini, so that may just change things a lot. And you've got the Aries energy, so the second half is more exciting than the first half. The first half is a little bit sort of slow tempo and still with that kind of nebulous energy of the Pisces. And then it begins to kind of change, and then we get the template of things moving forward. So but it's not as dramatic as April. But it's not much is going to change fundamentally. You know, even in the governmental aspects here, certainly in the UK, we've got the local elections on the 5th. You know, the sun is in Taurus. We've got a moon in Cancer, and Uranus is going to be making a conjunction to the sun on that day. So it's a very unpredictable day in terms of political aspects that are going on at that time. And if I politically can say, obviously Boris Johnson is a Gemini, and the Mercury will be going retrograde, around about that 10th of May. So that could be a little bit tricky for him, actually. Pretty tricky, yeah. So it's going to be interesting in terms of the USA. Just briefly on that particular energy, that Pisces collection of Pisces energies comes in at the 4th house, which is the roots of the country and property, and that means that there's the identity of the country is still very much in question at the moment, and trying to figure one out. When the Aryan stuff comes in, that might actually, the USA might start to feel a little bit that they can now be a bit more confident in their own identity, or are emerging from a slightly shadowy period with that. So some interesting kind of scenarios. Just finally moving on to the moons, particularly, we got a full moon on the 16th at 25 degrees in Scorpio. That's about 5:14 GMT time, and that's going to be a very interesting period. Moon in Scorpio. Moon is not comfortable in Scorpio, so there'll be a lot of tension around that day, certainly the day before on the 15th. And then you've got a new moon on the 30th at 9 degrees in Gemini at 12:30 p.m. GMT time. And I like that particular new moon. I think that's a really refreshing new moon. That's a key date to look out for, the 30th, I feel, for us all in actually moving things forward. But you know, like I said, it's a month like we had, similar to April, of two halves. And certainly in these particular times, there are things that are moving forward, particularly that Jupiter in Aries and the planets in Jupiter moving forward. Anyway, look, I hope you've enjoyed that. Like I said, please subscribe to the channel because it all helps. But also, you know, press the like button. And I'll see you on my next video, which will be in regard to June 2022.